Good morning. Good morning, Rabotai. Welcome to Breakfast in the Class. Breakfast in the Class today is sponsored and dedicated for a speedy and complete refuah shlema for Rabbani Chana Farhi Chana Batzim Afega, and as well for Rabbi Abadi Eliyahu Shimon Ben Mazar Fortuna. Please make berachot for the refuah. Today's breakfast and class has also been sponsored for a successful surgery Be'ezrat Hashem for Amaris Ben Haimi. Refuah shlema for Neshvat Haguf. Also dedicated in loving memory of Ms. Lily Sefelu Nishmat Leah Bat Chana. Her philanthropy has reached and continues to reach so many throughout the entire world. Also dedicated in loving memory and Lilu Nishmat Batya Bat Rachel Alea Shalom on our Askara Minuchata Began Eden. You were the crown jewel of our family of modesty, tzniut, and spirituality. Sponsored by her granddaughter Miriam Kashanian Miriam Bat Sarah. Finally, the week of Kobru is sponsored by David Yash in honor of you and your substantial capacity to do good today and every day. Okay, my friends, I want to draw your attention to a second part of the pasuk that we looked at yesterday, because I feel like we're not yet done milking this pasuk. The pasuk says, "Vayavohu kol ish." Yesterday we talked about the women, and today we're going to talk about the men. Vayavohu kol ish asher nisa'o libo. Every man came whose heart lifted him up. V'chol asher nadva rucho, and all those whose soul, whose spirit was generous. All those with a generosity of spirit. Oto heviu et tirumat amonai. They brought oto heviu, that they brought tirumat amonai as a gift to God. On Shabbat we talked a little bit about the idea that in truth a person does nothing in this world, gives nothing in this world other than his desire, other than what he chooses or wants to do. Because as you very well know, many times you've wanted to do something but have been unable to do it. I'll give you an example. Let's say a person wants to have a baby boy in order to do a brit milah, in order to have a pidyon. But God blesses him with 5 or 6 girls. Never has a boy in his life. What's the mitzvah? The mitzvah is to have a baby boy and a baby girl from the Torah. Mitzvah is pirya v'rivya. But it's not up to me whether or not I have a boy and a girl. God could bless me with all girls. God could bless me with boys. God could bless me with no children. God could bless me with an amazing wife. God could bless me to never get married in my life. And that's His blessing for me, His challenge for me, His path for me in this world. Ultimately, that's not up to you. What does a person get to do in this world? They get to choose what they want to do. And that is the gift ultimately that you give God, the gift of your choice, of your desire to want to do something. What a beautiful way of looking at the pasuk. Let's read it one more time and see that in the pasuk. Vayavo kol ish, vayaviu kol ish asher nisa'o libo, and they brought every man whose heart had raised him up, v'chol asher nadva rucho, and all those that their spirit was generous, oto heviu et tirumat amonai, that they brought the donation to God. Now, the simple way of understanding it is, of course, that they brought, if they had that generosity of spirit or that uplifted feeling, they brought whatever they were bringing. But one can understand here, oto hevi, that the greatest thing that you bring is your desire, is the way that you feel. My friends, we all know that many times when we are faced with the situation of tzedakah, our brain plays an amazing trick on us. And I want to perhaps descend into, for 1 second, the psyche, look under the hood, if you will, of how a person works. I will never forget, many, many years ago, it was exactly the year 2008. It was in the summer of that year. And there was a fellow who promised to give to tzedakah, to our tzedakah chazak, in London at the time. He promised to give $100,000. Beautiful. Anyway, I didn't call him right away. Guy made a pledge. I'm not going to dial the guy the next day, ask him for the money. I let it sit. One day, I pick up the phone. I said, you know what? I should really call him, ask him to transfer the money. What day did I call him to ask him to pay the debt?
Crash.
I don't know. I don't remember the day. What day was it?
September 29th.
September 29th.
I'm not sure.
I think wasn't that the first crash? The big crash? September 11 it was? The crash of the banks?
No.
No, that was a different crash. Bar Minan. Anyway, I call the guy and I say to him, could we collect on the, is it okay? Would you? The guy says to me, September 15th. He goes, are you crazy? Don't you know what's happening? Lehman Brothers, that was that morning. The crash happened that day. The guy said, we're battening down the hatches. We're getting ready to weather the storm. Da-da-da-da. Now, let me tell you something. This guy had enough money in his bank account with everything that he could have lost to redeem that pledge 500 times over. There was not a problem for him to give $100,000. But what does a person feel when you hear news like that? Right? Yeah, you got to protect yourself. Who knows what's going to be? Suddenly, a feeling of worry, a feeling of constricted, the constricted nature sets in, and suddenly you can't do what otherwise you would have wanted to, otherwise you would have said or pledged to be able to do. He says, Rabbi, I'm really sorry. He says, we have to batten down the hatches. I didn't know this was coming. I'm so sorry, I'm not going to be able to. Now, by the way, I never tried, but after things calmed down, I never went back to him and said, look, you remember, because I kind of felt that the guy, and I figured I'll leave it up to him. Whether you give tzedakah or not is not between you and me, even if I raise the money for my tzedakah. It's between you and God. Correct? So I just figured I'll leave it, and we'll see if he either will or he won't. Side note, he never did. But the point is, my friends, one of the tricks of the Yetzer Hara is that he knows that what gets us to do good things is a good mood. Nisa'o libo, if a person's heart is feeling uplifted, you're feeling really grateful, you had a great day at work, you walk outside, you see the doorman, you get into the Uber, how's your day? What's going on? Everything good with you? Because you're in a good state of mind. You're in a good place. One of the things that the Yetzer Hara realizes is he doesn't need to fight you on so many different battles. Think about this for a second. How many opportunities does a person have in the day to do a good mitzvah, to do a good deed, to be kind, to smile to someone, to give tzedakah? You have unlimited opportunities. You're walking down the street, you don't have to donate your time in the evening to one person. All throughout the day, you could donate milliseconds. How long does it take to smile at someone on the train? 1 second. How long does it take to get arrested for smiling at someone on the train? 1 second, okay? But the point is, right, you're sitting in a situation all day, where all day long, there's opportunities to be able to do good things. That's how it works. Now the Yetzer Hara knows that instead of fighting 1,000,000 battles, all he needs to fight really is one. If he puts you in a bad mood, if he arranges things to get you in a place where what happens? Suddenly your willpower is depleted. Suddenly you're not in that good mood, and then you know what you say? You know what, today, I'm not in the mood today. I'm not up for it. I'm not up for it. You ever hear that? In English, there's a language. We say, I'm not up for something. You ever hear that? Now today, the slang with kids is, I'm not down. Right, you hear that? Right, I'm not down. And I always thought to myself, look how good the Yetzer Hara has us pinned against the ropes. We're not up, we're not down, right? It's amazing. Just in the language, you see the power that he has. So the pasuk here is telling us something unbelievable. You know what the biggest nisayon is actually? The biggest challenge a person needs to look out for? Mitzvah gedolah liyot b'simcha tamid. And I always wondered. Rav Nachman was famous for making that sentence popular. Mitzvah gedolah liyot b'simcha. People think it's a Gemara. It's not a Gemara. It's not a Midrash. It's a song. But where does the song come from? Rav Nachman. And I always wondered, where did Rav Nachman from Breslov get this? What we do know is that the Torah says that a person has an obligation to do the mitzvot that he does with simcha. Where do we find it? The pasuk says, "Tachat asher lo avalta et Hashem Elokecha b'simcha u'b'tuv levav." You know why you're getting punished? Because you didn't serve God in the mitzvot He commanded you to do with the smile. With a smile. That's what it says. So if you're keeping Shabbat and you're miserable, and you're putting on tefillin and you're miserable, and you're giving tzedakah and you're miserable, that it says in the pasuk. But that a person has to be happy when he's walking down the street. Who said? I found the source for that too. The Mishnah says a person has an obligation to be besever panim yafot, with a smile on his face. Right? You know why? Because you might bump into people and you're supposed to accept the person with a smile on your face. Okay, fine. Let's say I'm alone. So I'm not seeing anybody. How do Rav Nachman know that there's a mitzvah there? And you know what the answer is? The answer is, I don't think that it's the simcha itself that is the mitzvah. But let me give you an example. Remember when you were in school and your teacher punished you because you didn't have a pencil? Remember that? And what did your teacher say when they got you in trouble for not having a pen? Being prepared for school means coming with the supplies that you need for school. I'm so sorry, you don't have a pen, you can't take the test, and you failed. I remember that. I was so mad. I studied, I did this, I did that. She said, if you're not, same way you have to prepare for a test, you never. If you don't have a pen, what happens? You can't do the test, right? That's how it works. You might be able to borrow a pen, but then you have a pen. But without a pen, you can't take the test. There are certain things in a person's life that if they don't have them, doing mitzvot becomes impossible. At least doing them correctly. And I think that's what Rav Nachman was explaining. Mitzvah gidolah liot besimcha. You know which mitzvah gidolah it is to be besimcha? All of them. All of them. Now let me give you an example. You know, your wife asks you to do something in the house. Something silly, something stupid. And you put this face on. Oh. You know what your wife will tell you before you even get out of your armchair? No, you sit, I'll do it myself. Now she asked you because she needed the help. But she'd rather, if you do it with that face on, she'd rather not have the help with that face. Our interaction with God, with regard to mitzvot, with regards to tefillot, is to be understood in the form of a relationship. And sometimes it's very helpful to relate to the relationship with God like the way the Pasuk describes the relationship with God in Shir HaShirim, as our lover, as our partner, as our wife, or as our husband. Right? The Pasuk calls him 1,000,000 times. Dodi, my beloved. Right? Rayati, my partner, if you will, my spouse, my friend. In those moments where we're understanding the mitzvah as a relationship, the fact that you don't have a smile on your face, even if you did the action, not only is the action not considered the mitzvah that it's supposed to be, it could actually get the person even angrier that you did if you didn't do the mitzvah at all. You understand? I want you to understand that point. The Pasuk is telling us why we're being punished as a nation. And what does it say? Tachat asher lo avadeta et Hashem Elokecha b'simcha u'b'tuv levav. You know what? I would rather you didn't do it at all. I want you to imagine for a second one of the aniyim that comes upstairs to collect money. And you look at the guy and you make him feel like a piece of dirt. And you stop, you reach into your pocket, you huff and you puff, and you give him $1. The guy might be very needy. But if someone was to assess from a healthy place whether it was better for the ani to get $1 from you like that and feel like a piece of garbage, or to not receive the money you gave him at all, what would that person decide? Better you didn't give it at all. So the Yetzer Hara, he is nothing except for efficient. The Yetzer Hara understands, why should I fight 5, 10 battles with Shlomo if I could fight one? All I need to do is get him in a bad mood. My friends, I want to share something with you I think is powerful. Al Chachamim tell us that when Avraham Avinu was going on the way to the Akedah, the Satan came to stop him. And what did the Satan, how did he come to stop him? The Midrash explains that the Satan came, he put up a river, so to speak, in front of Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu is going in the river, until he got to his nose, and Avraham Avinu says, you know what, I can't anymore. There's no more that I can go. I've done everything I can. And what happened? And the river dried up before Avraham, and Avraham was able to go through the river to the Akedah. I want to ask you one question. Who does the Satan work for? Who's his boss? God. The Satan, the Yetzirah, the Malach HaMavet, is arguably the most important malach out of all the malachim. Because he's what creates this game that we have called life, the challenges that we have. The Satan works for who? He works for God. Do you think the Satan would be given the power to stop Avram from doing the Akedah when God commanded him to do the Akedah? No. The only power that he had to put in front of Avraham was an obstacle that Avram could overcome. That's the only power he had. To put something in front of Avram that would actually stop him, he can't do that. God wanted to do the mitzvah. The Satan works for God. So what did the Satan know? What was he trying to achieve? Now there's two possible options. Option number one is that Avraham Avinu would give up. But I'm going to ask you a question. You've read a little bit about Avraham. Does Avraham seem like the kind of a guy that's going to give up? So what was the Satan's plan with Avraham? I believe that the Satan's plan with Avraham was what?
Improve his view of himself.
To get him upset. And my friends, I want to share with you, I thought of this concept once, this idea, this chidush, and I couldn't breathe. Because the outcome of this line of reasoning is frightening. What was the Satan trying to do? He knows he can't stop Avraham. The guy got up early in the morning to do the Akedah, saddled his own donkey. This is not a guy he's stopping. So that's not what that's not the answer. The answer is that Avram, he knew that Avram, he was going to go through with it. The question was, how was he going to go through with it? Was he going to be upset? Was he going to be impatient? Was he going to be angry? Was he going to be feeling towards God, this feeling like, you know what, enough already? Because the Satan understood that if he can't stop Avram from doing the Akedah, you know what he could do? He could make him upset. And if he makes him upset, what happens? I want to share with you something, it's going to give you goosebumps. Our rabbis tell us that in order for a person to experience nivu'ah, what do they need? They need to have simcha. In Adam, right, a person cannot experience a nivu'ah unless he's in a state of joy. Where do we learn it from? The pasuk says, V'haya kinagen haminagen. That when the prophet would want to experience prophecy, he had someone come and they would play a musical instrument to raise his spirits. If a person is angry, if a person is sad, if a person's upset, what happens? He cannot experience nivu'ah. The Satan realized, if I get Avram mad, by the way, that's why Moshe Rabbeinu, when he gets angry, nistalka mimenu, the Shekhinah goes away from him, because he can't experience prophecy. He loses connection with his Torah, because he's angry. The Satan's plan was not to get Avram to not do the Akedah. It was to get Avram to do the Akedah. Because the Satan knows what is God's plan. He's going to bring him up the mountain. And then what's God going to do? Right before he does Shechitah, he's going to say, Avraham, don't extend your hand. Don't touch your child. Al taslo me'uma. What would have happened if Avram was angry at that moment? He would not have heard the voice of God. The only thing he would have had to go on was the previous nivu'ah, which told him to do it. Avram would have went through with it. And it would have destroyed Avram for the rest of his life. That was the Satan's plan. Sometimes we think that the challenge in front of us is to go through the mitzvah or not to. But the Satan, he's 10 steps ahead. He realized that, you know what? My best move with this guy is not to stop him from giving tzedakah. It's to get him so angry at the rabbi that he gives it to him. And he says, you know, I'm never giving again. And the Satan is dancing the night away. Because instead of fighting one battle of tzedakah, he won all the tzedakah battles. And you know what? I want to share this with every person that's ever given tzedakah in their life. What is happening is not between you and the poor person. It's not between you and the yeshiva. It's not between you and the school. It's not between you and the synagogue. It's not between you and the mikveh. I gave and they didn't appreciate it. I gave and they were horrible. Are you giving money to that person personally? I mean, I hope not. If you are, someone needs to get arrested. Are you giving money to that person? No. You're giving money to something that you believe is a good cause. Now, it's important to make sure that the money is going to the cause. In whatever way that there's transparency, that it's clear that it's going. But my friends, this is between you and God. If something happens and they didn't send you a thank you letter, they must, they should. It's on them. They have to. But that's between you and God. And this move right here is the Satan's checkmate. Because you already gave the charity. You already did the nice thing for your wife. You already spent the money on the ticket that your child got. That's out of your bank account already. Why you want to ruin it now with a sour face? Why you want to be in that state of mind for the rest of the day that precludes you from doing the right thing? I want to read you this pasuk one last time with perhaps this twist of what we've said today. And every person, every man whose heart was uplifted, his heart was light. And every person whose spirit was feeling in a place of generosity. That they brought, the donation to God. In that moment when they came with that joy, with that simcha, with that elevated spirit, and they came to do an act of kindness, an act of a mitzvah, what brought them tirumah, the word tirumah means a donation. But the word tirumah also means something which is elevated. Leharim means to raise something. That's why a mountain is called harim. They're high. My friends, understand this. The greatest gift you could give your Judaism, your marriage, your children, your business, is to come to work with joy. If you're excited to do a job, if you're excited to parent, to interact with your child, then it changes everything. Because in that space, nothing bothers you, everything is overlooked, everyone is judged favorably. He probably didn't mean it. So if you had to change one thing that would change your life, it's this little line on your face. I remember thinking, they say the shortest distance between two places is a straight line. If a person's mouth is a straight line, then they miss the opportunity, they miss the experience. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. If a person is smiling, then the experience is something that they enjoy. If a person is frowning, then the experience takes forever. When you're happy, time slows down and you appreciate, you enjoy every second. When you're sad, time slows down and you hate every second. But you miss the experience completely if you're not invested whatsoever. The pasuk says, Harchev picha ve'amaleu. God says you want beracha in your life. Harchev picha, widen your mouth. Most people translate that means, Harchev picha, open your mouth, ve'amaleu, and I will fill it. But I once pointed out that the pasuk says harchev, not tiftach. When you open your mouth, look, my mouth is from here to here. What happens when I open it? Does it get wider or thinner? thinner. The more you open it, the thinner it gets. The only time a person's mouth gets wide when they're smiling. Harchev picha. Your eyes smile, your cheeks smile. When a person is smiling, va'amaleu, God fills your life. You feel like you're living a full life, even with your challenges. A person who tries to stay in the state of happiness feels tirumat amonai. They feel that God has uplifted them. May Hashem bless us to live each and every day with this experience, to be able to do our very best in Avodat HaKodesh. Baruch Adonai Leolam.